And we're live. Welcome to Earful of Dirt, the Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Aaron Castro, coming to you from Mesa, Arizona. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Victor O. Perez and Dan Brown in New York City. Josh Fredland, content editor in Denver. Meanwhile, producer Corey Munson, he's in the snow in Iowa. He's checking the comments for you. Send them in. Also, hashtag EODpod on Twitter. So how's everyone's week been?
Cold.
Snow.
No, snow.
I hear a common theme right now. It's just cold.
Hey, if you want to come to Arizona, there's none of that.
I'll pass.
We'll do.
I'll take a hard pass. We'll stay in the Northeast.
Cold.
Yeah, you're telling Ryan.
I'm not going to live in the cold. Sorry.
I
Whatever.
was born here. I'm used to it.
Likewise.
All right, so we've got Ryan Ginty from Next Level Rugby on. He is a rugby content producer. How's it going, Ryan?
It's going really great, man. I'm excited to be on. It's nice to flip the script here and be on the other side and be able to talk. No, life's good, man. What's up? Lots to talk about.
Oh yeah. We're gonna get into the meat of it with the ARC. But to let everyone know, for those new to the podcast, we're here each Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time. We discuss news, rumors for Major League Rugby, the United States Professional Rugby Union competition. It's a chance to discuss the issues and hear from the league, team leadership, check in with our friends from across the U.S. rugby scene. Also, we love to hear from you in the reviews. So if you leave a 5-star review, we will read that out. This week, Dan.
Thank you. This week on The Grind Part 2, we have Houston moving.
I dig it.
Just switching straight from grind to this. We've got Houston moving up to 4-2 after beating the Chicago Lions. The Can-Am Cup stays at home, which is probably the best part of the entire weekend in my life. And then there's a bit of a funky situation going on in Seattle with their recent scrimmage that was supposed to happen but didn't happen. So we'll get all into that. But let's jump right into the actual MLR related stuff first. Aaron, what do you got on the
So Houston played Chicago United, the Chicago Lions this weekend. Victor.
Oh, Chicago United. I'm sorry. Awesome. So, guys, let me get started over here. So, first of all, welcome listeners, viewers to Earful of Dirt. Real quick, Ryan, thank you for joining us, bro. I'm a big fan of your video productions. I've seen a couple of your videos like a couple of years ago. So, great to have you here and talking to you.
A couple of years ago, man. There's been I put out a couple since then, man. What's up? Where's the love?
He's busy.
Okay,
all right. As long as you're doing your research and your homework for this one, I'll give you a pass.
Of course. I haven't been keeping up with your stuff as much as I was, but I do know of you, so I follow Next Level for quite a while. So yeah. Anyway, so going back to my answer, guys. So man, this Sabercats, just dominate every week. Of course, of preseason, and this is definitely looking really good for the first season of Major League Rugby for the Houston team. Now, score was 61-10 over, of course, the Chicago Lions, which, by the way, was a team that had not only their own players, of course, but had borrowed players from rival teams, such as Chicago Griffins and Chicago Blaze. Now, the Sabercats started early with a try in the 13th minute, courtesy of Justin Allen, who, by the way, is now following us on Instagram. Thank you, Justin. And from there, we're just smooth sailing. Pretty much what happened last week against the Capital Selects. Chicago had some scoring opportunities from the 22-meter line of the Sabercats, but the line-arm scrum dominance from the home team proved to be too much for them, leading to another convincing win by Houston. So again, great game. Ryan, please go right ahead.
Yeah, we just had Grant Cole talking about it. One of the cool things that I thought was awesome is they're getting to really – it's 61-10 over Chicago. I mean, Chicago's not at that point yet, right? Like, they're a great D1 men's team. What they're doing with the Hope, Chicago Hope, and, you know, their facility. I played on their turf that they're building their new facility. It's great. But awesome that the Sabercats are able to come out and get a lot of young kids, young guys. I shouldn't say kids. I'm thinking Karen Farmer when I say kids, but getting a lot of young guys reps, new players. The name's slipping me, Aaron. Who's the specimen we were talking about that the Sabercats have that came on, got a yellow card right away?
Shantez Jackson.
Nice.
Shantez Jackson. Cool thing about him is that he just graduated from Houston while playing football in college. The dude made millions, like made a bunch of money, like as a startup. I think he's got like something like 2 or 3 startups. So that's a cool thing. And he's out there going to tear it up for the Houston Sabercats. But really cool to see them doing good. I'm excited. I want to get out to Houston. I mean, they had 2,000 people at their match. Social media game, you know, Grant Cole's killing it on point with the social media game, and, you know, really excited for Houston, what they got going on down there.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, I really just want to say the same thing. I mean, it was against a former future MLR team, or it may still actually be a future MLR team with the in the Lions. But I'm really excited for next week, and that's when they're actually going to be playing against NOLA Gold. So it's the first, it's the first actual MLR versus other MLR team matchup. I don't think we're going to be able to watch it, but I'm definitely going to be listening on that one.
So some color commentary here for you guys. So 4 Sabercats players were released to their former clubs, so I'm guessing they are still their clubs. The requirements to play, they couldn't just show up, right? All these guys were starters on their former clubs, so they had to attend all Sabercats practices and workouts and all of the club practices and workouts. And except for one guy, I think everyone played almost a full match on Saturday, and one of those guys played another full match for the Sabercats. So that was pretty intense. Moving on, Canada Hate Week has ended, and we emerge victorious. You know, I sort of feel like people were clapping. Got to get a rousing.
Oh, I started clapping.
Big clap.
I think I started clapping, and only Victor joined me, but he was actually on mute. So then it was really just me clapping. So
big round of applause for the Eagles getting it done. You know, to be honest, I sort of felt like we started really slow because of what we could have done to Canada. We didn't do, but we got there in the second half. You know, you saw the champagne rugby, you know. So did you guys hear anything about them not being able to afford an assistant coach to be flown down?
Doesn't surprise me.
I saw that on like multiple sources. So I know Brian Ray tweeted that to me, but I saw it before he said that. Like, yeah. So if we think our financial woes are something, well, their financial woes are worse. And then, you know, I think the foundation is starting to be added to now. You know, and Gary Gold's really, you know, putting in his DNA on the team. Toughness. Dylan Owdsley, again, impressed me. We talked to him on the grind earlier tonight. Great player. You know, hate to be a thorn in some folks' sides, but Davies needs to start because you saw again.
Boo. Nothing against Shot. I don't mean to hit on you, Shot. I love you, Shot.
There was a big tempo change again in the second half. That's my opinion. We're also Is that
tempo change? Is that tempo change though? Is that because the guys are tired, the Canadians are tired, and they didn't bring in their subs as much, and then you bring Sean Davies on, who is capable of being a starter, and then the ball speed, and then it's that deadly ball speed at the end, right? Like you have the X factor to open up the game in Augsburger to get you the tries, and then you got Davies to finish the game out. I think that's a great 1-2 combination.
I mean, it's the scrum half's job is to get the ball out, and there were some floaters from Nate again. Although I will say he improved this week. I was really. But I still think Davies is the guy. But who I really want to see is Ruben de Haas, because I think we can build for the next 10 years. Our kicking, Gary Gold had talked about his kicking at the NDS a little bit. We're getting very aggressive on our kicks, which I really like. We're like when we're cross kicking out, we're chasing it down and pressing on defense, and our grubbers and our kicks and chases are key and timed, and we're just getting down the throat of a team like Canada, and even against Argentina 15. And then my last note on this is, where's Eric Howard? Barkwell cannot play 80 minutes. He's played like 80 minutes. No, he hasn't been subbed out. He has not been subbed out.
Getting ready for the pro season coming up.
So
he's doing.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I did agree with you on the whole. I think they actually started pretty quickly for like the first 10 minutes, and I think it was like 14-0, and I was like, yeah, this is great. We're just going to stomp on them. And then they just kind of stopped for like the next 10 to 15 minutes, and I got pretty scared. Came down to like 14-7. I did think Augsburg did a much better job in this one, so I very much liked it, and I loved his try in the beginning when I think there was someone that was offsides or someone was right in front of him, so he just ran right around it and just dotted it down. So that was awesome. I love that. And again, it's just same thing as last week against Argentina. The depth I felt was really, or at least the second half, the last 20 minutes of the game. That's when really you saw a big difference and the momentum really completely shifted, because you had someone like Davies, like you were saying, just come in, and then Duratolo, and blanking on some names, but I just love that at the end. Ryan, it looks like you're trying to raise your hand, or at least do something there.
Oh no, I was just Big Ben Landry came on. He was pretty awesome. And then that's awesome game as an American. Like, we were watching it, it was a little bit harrowing at times. I mean, we didn't put the game away right away, but I just thought that the way that we were playing, and just how everything was connecting, and just the movement through the hands, and again, Cam Dolan, that 8-man, that's 2 cards in 2 weeks. But it's like that risk that you get with him. And then that one card, it was kind of funny how he's looking to get the other guy dinged, and he's telling the ref to go to the TMO, and then he ends up getting himself thrown into the sin bin, which I thought was an interesting turn of events there, because he's seeing the punches thrown, and the ref didn't even care, probably because he didn't connect any punches. But it was pretty.
He hit him once, when he was grabbing him, he kind of did a bit of an uppercut thing, and then he just pushed him against the face, and Cam just stood there and took it. And I think it was
took 8 punches, man. Or
at least hits. I don't know if all of them were punches, but they were at least just
it was
extensions.
A lot of this, and Cam had his hand out, trying to because he's got an arm that's 4 feet long, and trying to make sure he doesn't get hit, and he's showing that he's not being aggressive, and he gets a yellow for a tip tackle. This is the one. So
I can see that. Well, I can see that being a yellow. I don't really think it should have, for the most part. But if he received a yellow, I didn't really think it made any sense that Blevins just got off completely scot-free, and nothing happened from that.
Yeah, that was definitely something that was what about that? What about that? It's oh, wait a second, he just dropped them. But it was when I saw it in full speed, I didn't pick up on it. But when they did the replay and I saw him drop them, I was like, ooh, hopefully they're not going back. I was like, all right, be done with it, ref, be done with it, get away from it. And then they looked at it a couple more times, and I was like, oh man, that's a heck of a reversal. Now Cam's sitting in the bay, and wow.
I will say that when he was off in the bin, I didn't think that there was that much of a difference in terms of play because we were down by a man and down by Cam, who is, at least I think one of our best players. And
so
I didn't really see a huge difference in play.
We did something that I haven't seen from the Eagles, and that is raise our level when we have a man in the bin. Very few teams are actually able to do this at the international level, and it says a lot about the mental preparation, that they went to. Victor, you have a lot of observations about this.
Yeah, guys. Well, first of all, another USA victory is definitely welcome, especially over Canada, keeping that winning streak alive. I hope it stays there for a few years to come. Although, of course, I want Canada to sort of get over it and get a little better because, seriously, they're in complete disarray. But oh well. Now, it felt, first of all, very, very one-sided, though. Of course, at the beginning of the match, by minute 17, there were already 2 tries. So it was 14-0. Then later on in the match, 10, 15 minutes after that, Canada got a little bit of tempo. But then after that, in the second half, as you guys probably remember, just died down. Now, of course, this is a Canadian side that's still trying to recover from losing in America's 2 spot opportunity for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. So obviously, I was not expecting them to be there in the match. So, like, for example, when we played them in Canada for the America's 1 spot where we tied, and then we won when we played in San Diego. Now, I was really glad to see that Dylan Audsley, Josh Whippy, and Will Hooley made their capped appearances for the Eagle squad. So got them down, of course. So good to see, of course, player depth on almost every position. Although I think we need more props, especially tie heads. I feel that if something happens, like say, excuse me, what's this name that played just now on tie head? That guy. Something happens to him.
Dino Waldron.
Dino Waldron. Thank you, Dino Waldron. I don't know why I was thinking Team Maupin. Obviously, it wasn't Team Maupin who was playing. But yeah, but something happened. Again, I know, right? I don't know why I was thinking Team Maupin in the name. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. But Dino Waldron. If something happens to Dino Waldron, that's it. For example, if something happens to Chris Bowman, that's it. And we don't that again feels like we don't have that many tie heads, so definitely need to get a couple more, at least in my opinion. Now, I agree with the sentiment regarding the yellow card that Cam Dolan got because of that tip tackle. It wasn't fair that he was the only one that went to the bin and not Nick Blevins. But you know what? Whatever. It happened. Of course, love that try by Hanko Hemmerscheis after the game he had against Argentina. It was definitely well deserved. Now, if things go well with Uruguay, my opinion is the trophy sits with USA for year 2, which is great. Now, let me pass out the word real quick to Josh, who wants to mention something.
Yeah, just a quick touch for the people who actually care. The World Rugby rankings came out and had Uruguay and USA tied, which you would think that the USA would still be a little bit ahead, even though both teams won. But but because of the home field 3-point advantage that World Rugby gives, Uruguay's away win against Brazil got them more points than USA's home win against Canada. So Uruguay got 0.36 points, but USA only got 0.5 or 0.05, excuse me. And a lot of us don't see that as a good thing.
So it was explained to me today, and I don't agree with it. So get this. If you're the home team, you get a 3 points in the rankings. Not like 3 points on the spread in Vegas, but 3 points in the rankings. You're the home team. They give you 3 more points. So you're handicapped by that. So if the only way to like gain ranking points is if you're less than 10 points difference between the team you're playing. And I just think about it as like we're playing a higher ranked opponent, and yes, we're at home, but we beat them. Our score differential was greater. We shouldn't be tied in the rankings with Uruguay. Like, come on.
Or at this point. And one thing on that too is that I think USA won't gain anything in terms of rankings from beating Chile.
No.
Or Brazil. No matter how much the score, but or Brazil. But they can lose points if they lose to them. And it's actually CB Schmelter, who does tweet a lot about American rugby. He has a nice thread, so if anyone's actually interested, we can share that. Or no, I think we actually did share that before.
Yeah, we did today.
That's definitely something that really explains this better than we ever could, and we'd just be reading off the tweet by itself. So I don't think people want to hear our voices that much. But that's definitely something that we'll tag again. And Paul Tate from America's Rugby News is apparently the go-to World Rugby rankings guy for them, and he seems to somehow understand the system and how it works and how everyone's ranked.
He was just kind of like, meh.
Yeah.
He's like, it happens.
Yeah. It's just how it is. But yeah. But all in all, I mean, this this ARC has been pretty good so far. I've been pretty happy. I've loved especially the fight I've been seeing in a lot of players. Like Victor, you mentioned the Hammerscheiss try. I think his actual name is pronounced like Hammerscheiss, but I like Hammerscheiss.
Hammerscheiss.
That's how you say it. I wouldn't speak Afrikaans, but that's how you say it in Afrikaans. Hammerscheiss.
Hammerscheiss.
Hammerscheiss. The Hammerscheiss was the Uruguayan guys during the APC.
Oh my god, yeah. That's so stupid.
Gamershish or something. But I love the fight in them. Like when he got hit, and I mean obviously the Canadian player didn't actually wrap him up well enough, but he just pushed him off, run, and then throws down for the try. But the MLR player specifically, like Ryan Mattias, his try was wonderful. I've watched that on loop many times. Mikey Teo did still do a great job. He wasn't as noticeable, I think, as the first one. Cam Dolan obviously was noticed even outside of the yellow card. He's just been great. So I'm really excited from what I'm seeing specifically from the MLR players and not just the overseas pros that come by for a couple matches. So I'd love to see what happens in the next couple matches with these guys.
Moving on to picking against Chile. So I've confirmed, guys, that Andrew Girotalo, Will Hooley, and Joe Tafate have been recalled. They landed at Heathrow this morning. So I expect T.D. Lamosatelli, Dino Waldron, Blaine Scully, and Nick Chavetta to have been recalled as well, although I can't confirm that based on social media. But even with that, I think our front row choices will be enough for Chile, and we have plenty of backline depth here. The leadership options right away that come out to mind are James Hildebrand, who has captained the side, and also Nate Augsburger, who has captained the side previously. But I don't expect this to be close. In fact, I think our scoreline, is going to be similar to what Argentina put on them.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I'm excited.
What do you think?
I'm excited for this match because you got Patrick Ryan, Angus McClellan, Huluholo Mangaloa, which I think I nailed that name. I hope so.
You did. Great.
All right. And then Tony Papora in the front row. So I think it'll be good to see those guys get some reps. We haven't seen Tony yet. Guys that have Matt Jensen and Brandon Day. Be interesting to see if those guys get a run in there at the lock if Savetta's gone. Also, Nate Brakely, not sure if he's back in New York, but this definitely, and not taking anything against the Chileans, but I mean, this is definitely a match to where these younger guys, if we want to get a look at them, that this is probably our best opportunity right now, I would say, to get a look at these guys. And I mean, you said the front row, we have no problem in the front row. It's like, I don't think so at all. And then especially if we got Dylan Fawcett coming in too, I forgot all about him. The Butcher is a beast out of all blue. So if he's
someone say he was playing loose forward.
He could play anywhere, man. He was at Old Blue. He was playing. He could play front row. He was playing 8. He was playing. I mean, you could have him play center, not at the international level, but I mean, the guy is. I mean, he moves. He's a beast, and he's one of those guys from Life. It's actually funny how he went to Old Blue. He came to Old Blue, played against Life. Life lost to Old Blue, and it was on their Hall of Fame dinner night. And then shortly after that, went out, enjoyed the night of Old Blue, saw what an Old Blue dinner is, and then ended up going to that club and playing with them.
That's how you get players. That's the proper way to get players to join your team.
Yeah, if you go to their Old Blue dinner, they invited me last year. It was awesome. But yeah, no, exciting opportunity for Coach Gary Gold to get a look at some of these young players and see if they're ready to step up to the international stage.
Cool. I guess I'll jump in on that, guys. So Aaron already mentioned about the European-based players returning home. So obviously it's time for the MLR signed players to step up, of course, against those Condores of Chile. Players like Chance, Węwręcki, I believe it's pronounced in Polish, Peter Malcolm, of course, the Busher, Dylan Fawcett, who, if you're not paying attention, guys, I'm wearing Ohio Aviators jersey just to play for the Aviators, of course. Need to represent that. May the soul rest in peace. Still miss the Fortress. Matt Jensen, of course, we mentioned already. Alan Schrimmer, Son Wushin, Deborah Ferris, Ruben De Haas. I cannot wait for us to cap that kid and get him over here. I mean, I'm glad he's in the Cheetahs Academy, but I'd rather they're having here in the States. Of course, Benjamin Sima, Paul Asike, and this new guy that I really want to see, this Penny Tajibe, how you pronounce this? Tagiv? Really? That's how you pronounce it? Not Tagive? Really? Okay, well, Tagiv. Sounds weird. No, are you sure that's how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what, Aaron? I you're my commander, so I'm going to go with you. But I don't know.
I mean, I'll look it up and I'll eat it on Twitter tomorrow. But
please,
I mean,
please do it.
It's not like Spanish, like it's Tagiv.
Yeah.
You know?
Tagiv? Because he's Fijian, so I thought it's going to, and those are phonetic last names, like in Spanish. I thought it was going to be Tagive or something like that. But okay, whatever. You let me know if that's the correct pronunciation. I hope Penny doesn't listen to this and say, "Oh wow, this guy's having like a 2-minute conversation about my last name." You want to pronounce it, but yeah. But in any case, all these guys I just mentioned can definitely come and replace those that left the squad, and obviously gain some test experience against Chile. Of course, for these newcomers. As the Chilean squad is right now, I agree with you, Aaron. We're definitely going to put a score similar to what Argentina 15 did to them over the weekend. I think it was 57-14. So I'm pretty sure we could get something along those lines. So Dan, let me pass the word to you.
Yeah, even just going off of what you guys both just said, it's great to have the overseas pros from Europe, but honestly, at this point, for Chile and Brazil, we don't need them. Knock on wood. I can't find wood. Yeah, knock on wood somewhere. We don't need them. Uruguay, I don't think we will need them either because their European pros will also be going back. But honestly, I mean, I want to get as many people in as possible so that Gary Gold can see as many different matchups and setups and everything like that. Also, some players like Peter Malcolm, who hasn't even been on the roster for the past 2 matches. I think he's a great hooker. And he's a great captain for the APC. I loved watching him out there. He really controlled the team a bit, but obviously if you have Joseph Fate, who's playing for the Warriors, he's going to get the nod before you. So really, I want to see any kind of combination there is, really get crazy basically with this. Maybe even put Sean Davies in first. Who knows? We'll see something like that. But it's really it's kind of like a developmental part at this point. And that's the whole part. That's the whole point of the competition. It's developmental, not like the APC, but you can mix up some matches and, develop these players on the international level.
I'm going to eat this because I said I would. How you pronounce Penny's last name is Tagive. So it's like a hard first syllable. It's on his Baylor Bears football profile. So there you go.
So Tagive.
Yeah, there you go.
Tagive.
Yeah. Moving on. Let's talk about Seattle. This story got wild pretty darn fast. Damn.
What?
This is your side. Go ahead. That's your part.
Didn't get wild? No, it got wild. It's basically the so Seattle Seawolves were supposed to go to Vancouver Island. Victor finds that funny. They were supposed to go to Vancouver Island to play against I think it was like a select side. I forget the name of the club.
It was both. I don't know what the name is, but it was basically the two select sides, because the island has two select sides combined. So
ultra mega select sides, basically.
Yeah.
Which would have been awesome. Playing against some other players that I don't think we've really seen yet from Vancouver Island, and a lot of those players will probably be choice for the Vancouver side or the British Columbia side coming up. But then the match got canceled because of stuff. I think that had a lot to do with, at first we thought it was insurance, and then we heard it was visas, and then they didn't get it approved by Canadian Rugby or USA Rugby or something like that. But it went from just a simple, nice little exhibition friendly to they just didn't get all these things done that had to be done, apparently. I didn't read too much into it, but that's what it sounded like.
But yeah, it was regarding the whole visa issue with some of their players, which you would assume they would have resolved that a while ago, but apparently it was a government thing, so obviously it was out of their hands. But needless to say, guys, obviously I'm saddened that we're not going to have this match. Hopefully it will be able to, some rescheduling can happen and we can get it in the future. But of course it was out of the team's hands, because again, it was something related to immigration, and obviously that's government controlled, so there was nothing really they could do. Aaron.
So, the low-hanging fruit of this one is supposedly they were going to travel by ferry, and the match was scheduled for 7, and the last ferry out of Victoria is at 9. But I did look. If the visa stuff had been taken care of, they could fly back, because there's a flight out at like 10 p.m. from Victoria to SeaTac. So, yeah. So it wasn't just, it was all messed up.
I think if you're going to have this problem, right, like this is the time to figure it out before you have an official, MLR team in Canada, right? So you figure out these issues right now. You're coming across the border. You got visa issues. You got, the sanctioning, right, between like Canada and, USA Rugby. What's that look like? So unfortunate for the fans, but I mean, at least it's not like in crunch time, right? Like, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, how damaging is this to the Seattle franchise for it to happen right now? Just trying to play devil's advocate, trying to find some silver lining in here, guys.
Yeah. I mean, we can joke about it and say like, oh, they didn't even, get these things done. So it's, a circus, but it's not. It's an exhibition. It's not really that big of a deal. It sucks that it's not happening, or I mean, it sucks that it didn't happen, but so it goes.
Well, I mean, in the grand scheme, it's not that big of a deal, but I guess Vancouver folks are kind of mad because they put a lot of effort into getting especially the guys from the north end of the island down to practice, because Vancouver Island's pretty freaking big. So they're kind of perturbed, but they really want to see MLR take off so that guys can Canadians can play.
And I mean, these are the two teams that are essentially going to be owned by the same company, right?
I think it's majority ownership with Adrian Balfour in the Seawolves, and then Carl Harrison is an investor. He owns North Star Academy, and he will be the majority owner of the Vancouver franchise, and Adrian Balfour is going to be an investor in that franchise. So
it's like
sort of, So sort of, you know.
Do you think eventually they'll either sell their shares or even just give it to the other owner, be like, "Hey, trade these," and they'll just
I think it'll be like whatever the percentages of each, they'll make it handshake, exchange the pieces of paper, and the intent is right now it's an MLR and it's an MLS hybrid, so that an entity can own multiple teams based on every person I've spoken with about the model that they're running is that it could happen. Should it? Is it necessary? I don't know. Guys, I think we'll move on to player signings. So who joined clubs this week, Dan?
Well, we got some official signings and then some signings that we think are official. So I guess we'll start with the semi-official one. The Chicago Lions actually tweeted out about Angus McClellan, that he signed with the Utah Warriors. However, I think, Aaron, you confirmed that he didn't sign with them, at least for the time being. Is that true?
Oh man, Angus McClellan. So I asked Utah last week. They said no. I asked Utah later in the week when the roster came out. They said no. But apparently USA Rugby was relatively emphatic when whoever it is spoke to Brian Ray, and Brian Ray then wrote an article about it.
Yeah. So two sources that weren't the Warriors confirmed that he's playing for the Warriors. One being USA Rugby, the other being his club that he's currently playing for. So I'm going to say he's playing for the Warriors. I'm not going to, worry about that. So that's how we got for the Warriors. But Victor, what you got some a Seattle Seawolves signing? Actually, a pretty good signing for the Seawolves.
That's exactly right, Dan. Well, the Seawolves signed a tight head prop, and funny, I was talking about tight head props some time ago. Tim Metcher, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, coming from the Melbourne Rebels, which is a team in Super Rugby, and down in Australia, for those of you that may not follow, which I'll be surprised if you don't, but you never know. We may have new audience members just getting into the game. Now, he played for the Australian Schools Rugby Championship, representing a captain the New South Wales team. He was also part of the U20 Wallabies team for the 2011 World Rugby U20 Championship. 2 years later, in 2013, he was part of the combined New South Wales Queensland country team against the British and Irish Lions tour down in Australia. And then he signed for the Rebels in 2015. With that, leaving the team, now coming to the Pacific Northwest corner of the United States, playing for Seattle Seawolves. So congratulations to Tim for becoming a Seawolf.
So yeah, it's kind of slowed down on player signings. We sort of seen some people, which we'll talk about later in the show. But Dan, the tweet of the week. This is actually pretty dope. I did not see this today.
Yeah, I didn't see this. This is a last-minute edition because we just came across this. So it's a bit interesting because it's a reply to another one. It's a tweet within a tweet within another tweet, basically. So someone tweeted that NHL hockey team, Austin has no major pro teams. Look at the success National had, blah, blah, blah. And then Tim Ferriss, who is – I didn't actually know who Tim Ferriss was, but for anyone who cares, he's author of 5 #1 New York Times / Wall Street Journal's bestsellers. He's an investor in Facebook and Twitter and Uber and stuff like that. He's a host of the Tim Ferriss Show podcast. All this really means nothing to me, but he has about 1.5 million followers.
Ferriss is a very smart dude. Like I don't listen to his podcast normally, but I've listened to podcasts he's been on. He's been on the Joe Rogan and Jocko podcast. He is incredibly intelligent, and he's a venture capitalist. I would say on the daily, but he writes crazy awesome business books as well.
Well, there you go. So Aaron says he's smart, so he's smart. So Tim retweets that and says, interesting idea. NHL might be tough, but anyone have thoughts on creating major pro teams / franchises in or around Austin? And we have Twitter user Delish. His handle is at Big Delish 32. I believe Austin is going to have one of America's first professional rugby teams in Major League Rugby starting soon. At USMLR, hashtag Austin Rugby. At USA Rugby, hashtag Six Nations NBC, which is not MLR, but it's obviously rugby related. But it's just a nice little tweet seeing someone that, is aware of the team coming out, and it's good to see more people talking about it online. And this Tim Ferriss guy did not actually retweet that, so that would be awesome because that's 1.5 million people who could see that. But yeah, very happy with just seeing more people talking about this, and not just the typical people we see on the subreddit all the time that we happen to follow too.
Yep.
So that was our tweet of the week.
Moving forward to news, views, and abuse. There's apparently a lot of abuse today. So news, Houston Stadium deal, $3.2 million in reimbursement for the use, I guess, or renting of, or long-term lease of the parking lot of the Houston Stadium.
How much does that parking lot cost?
$3.2
million, obviously, right?
It depends, man. So, are you talking light duty, medium duty, heavy duty? Because heavy duty is 6 feet of asphalt, man.
Well, I'm talking $3.2 million of it, right? Like, if the city's throwing up $3.2 million, how, like, so say it costs you $1 million say it costs you $1 million to pave a parking lot and put that up. Does the other $2.2 million, can that now be used to help fund and build a stadium? Or how is that money being allocated?
So it's a reimbursement from a quality of life bond back in 2012. And this I guess it's paid out over payments. But first thing that has to happen is Houston has to spend the money. I mean, Houston Sabercats. So they will spend the money up front, and then they will be repaid $3.2 million. The deal also gets, Houston, the city of Houston, full access and I guess relative control for non-rugby events to the stadium. So, I mean, Josh had something to say here. I think it sort of sounded weird, but you'll probably explain it a little bit to me.
Well, as far as I could tell from reading that article, it seemed like that parking lot was going to be built no matter what.
Yeah.
And
so the parking lot was going to be built. The Houston Sports Park, which is adjacent to the Sabercats property on Maury Road, they were going to develop another piece of land for the parking lot. So,
Yeah, from looking at I looked at some pictures of the Houston Sports Complex or Park or whatever it's called, and there are a lot of fields. And if you get, like, especially the changing from, like, the end of an hour when you have parents who are all leaving and parents who are all coming, they're going to take up a ton of parking spots. So they needed parking spaces to bring Johnny to soccer practice, but hopefully now rugby practice.
Yeah, and Houston's definitely, I mean, you don't have the T running all the way out there to where they're doing it, right? So it's a heavy commuter-based, community that's going to be driving big four-door trucks. Yeah. So you need a big parking lot for all the cowboy Cadillacs out there in Texas. But now that's awesome, man, that they're getting that these MLR teams are getting legitimate stadiums that are going to be used for rugby, not baseball stadiums converted for rugby, which is awesome right now. But I mean, I think this is great news for rugby all around, right? Like, I mean, and credit to Glendale for setting the standard, right, and paving the way.
Yeah, and then the thing with the stadiums, too, is that they can be used for other purposes. I mean, Glendale, because it's a rugby-specific one, obviously they're rugby town. That's their thing. So they host lots of rugby tournaments. They host the college. Right now they host the NSCRO, Rugby Town Sevens, a ton of other Sevens things, everything like that. But maybe this Houston one, they'll host, I don't know, like the Dynamo minor league team, or I think there's actually a new women's soccer team, the Houston Dash or something like that. So I mean, they could do something like that and just rent it out. I know with at least speaking from the New York team, they're going to build one up in the Yonkers area. And I mean, just the amount of money you can get from renting out field space in New York is just incredible. And if it's an actual stadium, you can get like, high school football or college football. If for some reason there's no space, I don't know what it is, but you can at least put something on, and that will always be taken if you want it to be.
Well, I mean, that's like one of the biggest problems here in the Northeast and actually hosting a professional team. I know they had a problem. We're talking about rugby being played in Hartford before the show started. That was like option C was Dillon Stadium, looking at all the way out here. There is nothing in the Northeast, that really is a small to medium, and throughout the U.S. really, right? Like we built these huge cathedrals of sport, and we've left out these 3,000 to 5,000 seated stadiums. And now it's turning 2018. It's like the hipster stadiums are in, right? Like I mean, it's like the small, like craft micro brews and all that kind of stuff. That's like that feel. Like I think it's pretty cool, And I mean, that's what we need realistically. Like if you're looking to get more than 6,000, I mean, you look at the attendance at the ARC match, man. We didn't even talk about that tonight. I mean, it was. I saw some of the pictures, man, and it was appalling. It was very unfortunate, but more small stadiums, make more money. New York, do it.
Make small stadiums great again.
So moving on, just to touch on Seawolves partnered with 3 Point Productions. Everyone's seen what Glendale has previously done with their events. Everyone's looking to see what the Sabercats are doing. So, fan engagement, fan activation, fan experience is a big thing with MLR. So nice to see that. Then we've got Ram Rugby signed a deal with MLR for 6 teams will receive Ram Rugby custom balls for matches. And then all 7 teams are included in a separate equipment deal. Last week, I was on with Ken Hagerstrom, Ram Rugby USA CEO. It was really informative. Really great to hear about why Ram Rugby has come to the U.S. So check out the interview we had with him. Then we have the USA Rugby news came out. There's going to be a summer test in Denver and a summer test in Houston. There is a game in Glendale that weekend. So Josh is going to go early to the Glendale game and then skedaddle to Dick's Sporting Goods Park to cover both for us. If he's not on vacation, hopefully he's not. Or hopefully he reschedules that vacation shortly.
That day, actually, that game is Sabercats at Glendale. So at least as far as I'm concerned, the teams that have made the most noise in terms of professionalism so far. So that's going to be a really exciting one. So I
What's
don't know
that
date?
Time?
June
2nd? Is that like the first weekend in June?
June 9th, I think.
I only asked because like clubs, I think finals is like finishing up for around that time too, and they're hosting. Yeah. Are they putting them on the same date? Because that would make sense.
So there's a lot of stuff going on that weekend. Yeah. When it comes to rugby, it's kind of strange. And I sent a note to the youth people to ask about that because the USA Rugby is hosting the, I guess, Region West Youth Regional Tournament thing, RCT. I don't know what the C stands for, but
championship.
I was like, so is this going to be a festival atmosphere at Dick's Sporting Goods Park? And then I also asked Glendale if USA Rugby had approached them about a doubleheader, and they're like, yeah, we know about it.
Doubleheader would be awesome, but I've been spreading the rumor that there will possibly be a potential doubleheader, but I don't think it's going to actually happen. I just like stirring shit up. But the facility at Dick's is like awesome. I was out there 2 years ago for when they had Club 7s out there during the summer. And I mean, they've got fields as far as you can see. So I mean, what we got to do is we have to put as many rugby players in a test match area as possible. And so if we were to run
a series of tournaments in national championships and these RCTs in conjunction with a test match and an MLR game, and you put all those rugby players there, that's the only way that we're actually going to grow the game right now. You put everybody in the same spot.
And
that would make too much sense.
And if you plan everything together, because they announced the RCTs 2 days before they announced the test match, so they may have been put together, but the MLR I don't think was really planned together for the most part. You need to be able to plan something where, like, oh, if you buy a Raptors ticket, which actually every ticket you buy, if you put in like a club thing, would be 20%. It's actually another topic.
10% goes to your club. 10% goes to Rugby Colorado to support youth rugby. So that's really awesome. You know, it could have been some crazy, awesome, like week-long festival where, you know, you go to an you have youth rugby all week, you go to an MLR game, and then you go to a test. But right now, I'm sort of wondering what's going on with the planning per process.
It'd also be awesome because they definitely made Denver area as like the rugby town set up for tournaments like this, and it's the home for the most part of these of USA Rugby. I'm sorry, I forgot what the name was. So that's where we should be really, you know, hosting all these tournaments, hosting these test matches, bringing everyone. It is central for the most part in the U.S. that everyone can come to, you know, host these, and then really just do a, you know, slam people in the face with rugby, basically. Make sure every single person in the entire city knows it.
Not to beat this drum, but, you know, Josh mentioned it in our email prep over the week. You know, the last two matches in the Denver area, which were at Rugby Town at Infinity Park, sold out, Georgia and Canada. And then previous to that, you had really good attendance for the Churchill Cup, which, to be honest, I don't know how you get good attendance for that, but they had good attendance for it. So we haven't been back to Glendale in 6 years.
Bring back the small stadiums. We were just talking about that 2 seconds ago.
I think the problem with Glendale, though, is that you have that concrete ledge seating, right? Like if you're going to hold an international match, like you expect an actual seat to sit in. But that being said,
I didn't have an actual seat in San Diego. It was a bench.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, I guess you're right. But there are a couple chairs. But no, I think Glendale is great. I love the laws in Colorado, so I mean, it's like a great place to host all the good stuff out there, and it's very fun.
BYOB.
Yeah.
Depends what B is. Yeah. Yeah. It would. Yeah, but you know, that's just a great place to really put something on, and I would love to see Infinity Park host a test match because, like we were saying, you know, Sacramento had like 1,500 people. Is 10,000? 10,000 is not too big, so that's a decent sized stadium. Which, if we can get like a Sacramento-based team, that'd be an awesome MLR stadium. But I'm going off a tangent. But like Infinity Park, if you can fill that up and it's right in the middle of the town or city, I don't know exactly what it is. Just the atmosphere would be incredible. And then you can go to a local bar nearby, and then everyone in the area is like, what's going on? Why are there like 5,000 people walking through the town, you know, celebrating about USA Rugby? So
yeah, because the problem with it, if you got Dick's Sporting Goods, it's like way out in Commerce City, so it's like way out on the outskirts, like the industrial area part of Denver. Glendale is close to, it's more of a city atmosphere, and you know, Glendale. I mean, if you want to, probably the most interesting man in rugby is Mr. Mike Donovan. Like, and Glendale. Glendale is an interesting story. That little municipality.
Wasn't that a rugby wrap-up video with Mike Donovan?
Yeah,
and they called him the most interesting mayor or something like that.
And that was a very yes. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, that was very like tame, but it was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, to go back and watch that. I didn't for some reason, but I'll definitely give it a look if you say so.
So, moving on, just a quick note on the PRP. There was a bunch of Legion players that suited up for on-back, so I sort of wonder what the PRP is going to look like late in the season when, you know, MLR season is in full gear. So But questions from Bob. Corey, where are you? Where are you, man? Where is he? Corey,
where are you?
He's coming. He's coming.
Whoa.
He's waking up.
No, seriously, like snowboarding's on, so forget rugby. I'm going full on Winter Olympics. It's
What's wrong with curling?
No, that was earlier.
Which actually, I watched the final, maybe not the final, but when there was only one game going on and everyone's watching, that's actually pretty exciting. Yeah, I was having a fun time watching that.
I've lost my girlfriend to the Winter Olympics, so yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I did this weekend. Like that and shovel snow was my weekend.
And if you live in the San Diego area and you're watching the Olympics, there's a good chance you'll see a San Diego Legion commercial pop up.
Which is fun, which is awesome.
We don't, though.
All right. Okay, guys, yeah, we've got some questions. Actually, so everybody, you really stepped up this week. We were complaining last week about there not being enough questions. So this time we are just flush with them. So starting us right off, SJ Rugby asks a 3-part question. So I think we'll just go through this piece by piece. We know about NYC, British Columbia, Toronto are mostly in for sure next year. What other locations are most likely a for sure bet in 2019? So where are we going to have expansion teams? We've talked about this so many times.
A for sure bet.
For sure bet.
At this point, those are the 3 for sure bets. I know that Dallas.
They're the loudest about joining. They say they're going to join 2019 and they're hosting combines, but we don't know. We haven't confirmed that they actually are in, just so they want to join.
And then supposedly KC and Chicago also still have a seat at the table, but I got nothing on that.
A while ago, Kansas City said in response to someone on Facebook, but it was such an off comment that it's not really.
It's like 2019, we're coming.
Yeah.
Boston's still a possibility.
I think Boston is a 2020 for sure. That's what I think.
Yeah. Unless something just pops up out of nowhere. Or if they see the other thing that could happen is that a lot of places can see the first season and just see how successful it is and get their shit together and move it and push it to be 2019.
The issue we run into with, saying let's have more. We don't have the player pool to really sustain a high level of competition like we want. I think the intent is to have parity and have a good product on the pitch. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to watch. Because to be honest, I'm one of those guys that says, Ryan and I have this conversation all the time. I personally don't want to pay to watch amateur rugby. Yeah. I don't. I'll go, I'll buy a shirt, I'll buy a burger, but I won't pay admission. That's just me. You monetize in other ways.
I'd probably go for the first season, expecting it to get more professional in the following seasons, and maybe, hey, I'm supporting it, so I'm supporting the professionalism in the future. But if it's still like that for a while, which it very well may be, if there are too many teams taking up these players, because they can only have so many players from overseas. 1, because they have a cap, and 2, because it's expensive to actually bring in players from overseas for multiple reasons. They have to turn to Americans, and we've hit a lot of good players, but we're going to hit a point soon where it might be tougher.
Yeah. I think our talent pool is pretty spread thin right now. And if you look at it in like teams like New York, for instance, you got 4 guys that are old blue guys through and through, and now they're out in San Diego, right? Like, so right there, you've already taken 4 of those guys out there. You still got Nyack, and you still got a lot of good players, like at all levels, right? Like you got D3 players that can step up and play, but we are very thin on that next level, all pun intended, type of players that are going to be playing on like the national team. And if we do have, and to your point, Aaron, right, like if we have too many teams and we spread it way too thin, what is that product on the field going to look like? And that's what, a lot of people are talking about. That's, what the people that I trust and their opinions really are saying, like, hey, we got to take it slow, gradual pace. It'd be nice to have 30 teams, but we don't have the player pool right now to do it.
Oh no, I didn't. I cut you off in your conclusion. Whatever you're saying.
No, you were
there's a
saving
question
me.
that
I was
goes-
done. I was trying to
there's
get
a
out of
question
it.
that-
It's like
the
someone.
question that Corey has that goes into this.
Well, I actually was going to make one quick point though on that. What you're just discussing.
No, you ask the questions. You don't make the points.
Fair enough.
Snowboarding.
So no, actually, I was kind of thinking of the discussion you guys were having earlier about Chicago, though. Here was basically a Chicago United team that came down to Houston, the best players in the third largest city in the country, and I mean they just got trounced. So that says to me that this is an elite level team as far as club rugby goes. I mean, this is one of the best club rugby teams in the country. It is so far away from being professional. And I think,
but to go with that, there's a massive difference between what Sabercats are doing and what the top level clubs they're playing are doing. Sabercats are practicing like 20, 25 hours a week before they hit match day. And, they're still, even though Chicago's a select side, they're still, on a club or club plus level schedule.
The other thing too that's actually really important to keep in mind is that if you do create too many teams and you basically have to take all the D1 players, then you're going to start pissing off clubs because, like Minnesota, for instance, lost a lot, but they say that they're happy to have their players go on somewhere else because it's a selling point, and that's great. But then if you get to the point where, okay, all the players in the PRP are basically taken, then that diminishes that competition. It diminishes that group of D1 club rugby, especially in a place like California, and then a lot of the people who are from there are not going to be happy that you're essentially, taking all the players from a club. If you expand too quickly, if you get to 15, 16 teams in, 2 years, then you're just going to devastate some places.
so related to that, the second part of that question is there, how many clubs is too many clubs when it comes to MLR? Should we be worried about MLR expanding too quickly, and specifically references problems MLS had during its expansion, I'm assuming, of teams going out of business shortly after starting?
Yep. So, I mean, this subject has come up on our show, I think twice before. The only thing that I would say that ever came out of Doug Schoninger's mouth that I respected was the research he did when it came to max saturation. So leagues achieve their peak in this country at max saturation of 30 to 32 teams. And that's when, the league is very profitable, but we can't expand to 32 teams next week. We can't expand to within even 5 years. 30, 32 is your peak to 20, 25 years down the line.
Yeah. I think also in short term, probably low teens, maybe 12 to 15. I really think that after maybe the second or third year, take a full break where just absolutely no new teams, let at least 1 year go by with the current teams, see how things are going, and then create more of a selections process rather than just anyone who's actually able to put up the money in some of these areas. Because for the most part, if they're able to put up the money, then there's going to be a club or at least a team in that location right now.
I think what's going to be interesting to see with these MLR teams is how they set up their academy systems and how they either augment or cannibalize the actual club structures that are around them, right? Because I mean, if you look at all the European clubs, there's a pathway, right? And we use the word pathway, I think, a little bit too much, but there is a way for you to get up and play professional rugby. Now that MLR is starting to come out and they're doing that, right? You look at like Houston, they're holding combines for high school kids already, right? They got a kid, Karen Farmer, straight out of high school that's playing with them. That's good. But it's like, I guess I don't know where I'm going here. I'm just saying that I think it's going to be interesting to see, how that goes about and what youth rugby looks like in 10 to 15 years from now, and high school rugby looks like, and if that is an actual feeder program and part of a community outreach program from these MLR teams. And if they do that, I think it's going to, really take off and change the game here in America.
Josh.
I guess in relation to Ryan's comment, do we go to tiers and go promotion and regulation?
Promotion, no. Really,
no.
promotion regulation.
Promotion relegation, no. Minor league and academy system, like where academy teams, yeah. Because I think what we're seeing overseas is that with rugby, because it's not soccer, the moment, like, the people that are fighting to try and get into the premiership are going bankrupt as soon as they get there, right? Whereas a closed shop league allows you to build equity every year in your team. That's why, the Dallas Cowboys are worth $3 billion. That's why, the Clippers went for $2 billion.
Billions.
Whereas the London Irish are currently on the block for 3.5 million. So, hey guys, you want to go buy the Irish? I think we could cobble it together.
Yep, just throw our pennies in.
Yeah.
I got $20.
I could probably scrape together at least 10.
I mean, I run a multi-dollar company, so I mean, I've got like $17.
multiple of dollars. That's good.
Victor, you had some thoughts.
Exactly. I was going to mention right now that I was going to jump in. So regarding to what Ryan mentioning regarding cannibalizing club teams with a professional setup. First of all, before I say this, let me ask all of you guys, do you think it's possible to have a professional league and still have amateur sides that feed into those professional teams? Let me start with you first, Aaron. Okay, good. I don't know if you guys agree with him, I guess.
My two words are shoot shield.
Mm-hmm. Also, because people are not seeing this, you spell shoot shield wrong. There's not C in shoot. It's just SHUTE.
Aaron, why don't you go on and whatever the word is, talk more about.
So the shoot shield competition is, the elite rugby union amateur level in Australia. They have a TV deal where they're on free air television. They have a multi-million-dollar sponsorship. And, one of our players, James Hilterbrand, plays for Shoot Shield Club. Several of the Houston teams guys played in the Shoot Shield this last year. It is the level of competition is crazy high. Like, it is, you're talking about athletic trainers, doctors, the film sessions you have to go through, the training, they still have to work regular jobs. Like James Hilterbrand is an account manager. What does that mean? He has to sell a lot of stuff, so he still puts in, it is amateur, but it is a professional atmosphere.
Also compare that to the PRP, which is, I guess, trying to become, especially now with their deal with Flow Rugby, trying to become more like that, where it's, an elite group of clubs, in this case in California. We're not at the same stage as like Australia or New Zealand, obviously. But it's, 6 clubs that are coming together. They're playing top level competition against each other. They are, televised. They have Samurai as their main sponsor. So it's more structured than a typical D1 club in that sense, or at least the competition. But, it's like a beginner part of like the Shoot Shield, basically.
So going back to my point, and the reason why I asked you guys is because this is the same problem. Well, not really a problem, but the fear that's happening down in Argentina. So Argentina has probably the best amateur competition, urban or citywide competition in the world, which is called El Torneo de la Urba, or the Urba tournament, which is specifically for teams in the Buenos Aires Rugby Union, or Unión de Rugby de Buenos Aires. So the reason why it took the Argentinian team, Los Pumas, so long to actually get to a certain level where people would respect them on an international level and actually bother to play them, because prior to 2007, no one really cared about the Argentinian teams, and Argentinian players, if they wanted to get their level up, they had to go to Europe. That's where so many of them, and still a lot of them in France, and some of them in the UK. The reason why that is because the URBA and the other unions in Argentina are afraid that with a professional setup, their amateur teams are going to go the way of the English teams, that they're going to lose players, the clubs are just going to vanish or go away, and people are not going to pay attention to them. Because in Argentina, rugby is a really family-oriented sport. If you play in an Argentinian rugby team, it's because your father played, or your uncle played, or a friend of yours played. And that's why you have these teams that are over 100 years in the country, which is here in the States, we don't really even have one that's over 100 years old, which is really sad. But that's besides the point. So that is the reason why of my question.
So I guess I can sort of lean into that, because last year they talked about forced relegation due to finances of Stade Francais, and then they were going to merge with Racing Metro. They end up being sold to Wild. I think it's Franz Wild, Dr. Wild, who owns Wild Companies, Capri Sun. Every team in France, in the top 14, Pro D2, they all have amateur teams attached to them. So if Stade had merged with Racing 92, Stade Francais' amateur lineage still existed. We're seeing a resurgence with the London Welsh, because there's two pieces to the London Welsh. There's the amateur side, and then there was the professional side that went bankrupt. So,
yeah, that's what we thought, that like with the Huns, which later became Austin Elite Rugby, but we thought it was going to be a very similar kind of setup, with there'd be the amateur Huns, but then there'd be professional Huns. At least on the Argentina side, that's really, their club culture is apparently absolutely amazing. I've heard that basically, in order to it's something like the fans actually don't buy tickets to go, but if you are a member of that social club or that athletic club, then you get all these perks, which include going to the rugby and field hockey matches. And I had a friend who played field hockey in Argentina, and they were so tight knit. It was like, Monday through Friday was just basically working for the weekend so that you can go and play rugby. And it's just astonishing. I'd love to go down there, and if Argentina can actually host a World Cup in 9 years or so, I would just be awesome to go down there. But America should host it first, but that's just me.
And by the way, guys, real quick, on the subject of field hockey in Argentina is a big sport, but a women's sport. Their women's team...
Just like in the United States. Grass hockey is a ladies' sport.
In case anyone just...
Exactly. Well, Las Leonas are like one of the top 10 teams in women's field hockey, which is really funny because field hockey was actually the national sport of India, and their men's team were the best one for many years until cricket came in and just took over as a national sport. A little fun fact for you all.
And we'll cover more of that further in detail on Friday, our sports history podcast, hosted by
me. Thank you.
And of all the podcasts that we've come up saying, like, or we'll have like geography or spelling or something, his sports history is actually the one that is a realistic podcast, at least. It's actually a good plan for the most part.
So you're saying there's a better chance that's going to happen than a history podcast from us?
That is a history podcast.
Or, sorry, distracted by, slopes and ice and whatnot. All right. So last part of this question, this being the longest section of questions ever, SJ Rugby concluded his questioning by asking...
Wait. We're still on this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're still going.
For Ryan.
I mean, you can answer with a simple yes or no to most.
Yes,
of them.
please, Ryan. Just good answer.
We decided not to answer yes or no to all of them. I guess you can't answer yes or no to any of them.
For the record, we dropped like 5 questions after this one, so we'll end with this and then get out of here because I don't know about you guys, but at some point I'd like to go to bed. So what's the latest about the San Francisco Bay Area team, and what are the chances of a team coming to San Jose?
0. So there was so we obviously had Gobelet's group. They pulled out. Then there's a local group exploring some things that they've looked at San Francisco, and it's just unfeasible. Like if you can buy land, you're not going to afford to develop it in this way. So I think if they're still together, they're exploring deep East Bay or maybe Sacramento. I mean, I thought Sacramento was the place until this weekend. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful stadium. I said I would love, especially with that slide in the background. Like that alone would probably get at least 2,000 fans to each game. It's an awesome stadium. It's just unfortunately not many people showed up to it.
I too have always wanted to slide down that slide as well.
Yeah. Actually, I really wish that whichever team wins goes directly to the slide and all of them just go down at the same time. It's like a fake.
Put a GoPro on them and put it in the broadcast. I'll do it. Next level rugby. Let's go.
Instead of walking around and waving to all the fans and shaking their hand, straight to the slide.
No, the whole fans. Everybody goes down the slide.
So
Everyone.
It's free.
It's like a conga line down the slide.
Attend the rugby match. Free trip down the water slide.
There you go.
Or the fans wait at the bottom and all the players come down and high five them as they come out. We're spitballing here, but I think this is a work in progress.
USA Rugby marketing, get on this right now.
Yeah.
This is a discussion that occurs when you're starting to approach midnight East Coast time. This is the kind of thing we come up with.
Yes, busy day.
Well, guys, I think that just about wraps it up for another great episode. Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's been good having you.
Hey, this is awesome. I'm glad that I could come in, and it's just unfortunate that I was a part of this podcast, so now I have nothing to listen to while I'm doing dishes. So I'm sorry I'm going to tell my fiance, but the dishes just aren't going to get done this week.
What about Preston and Warren? You don't listen to them during dishes?
I do. Well, I mean, I do dishes hopefully more than once a week, but
just once a week.
Once a week. No, but for real, man, it's been awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been really fun and really enjoy what you're doing. And truthfully, this is how I know about Major League Rugby.
Well, there you go. And Reddit.
I don't know what Reddit is. I honestly saw Reddit for the first time the other day, and that may be a little bit embarrassing, but I don't know enough about Reddit to be embarrassed by that, but I know I probably should be embarrassed by that.
You can get lost.
It's a scary place. You're okay. Just listen to us. You'll get everything you need to know.
Sounds good to me.
There's going to be a Major League Rugby 4chan page 2 coming up.
Again, I have no clue what that is.
That's even going deeper into the rabbit hole, basically.
Oh, man.
It's a hellhole there.
It'd be horrible. So, any parting thoughts, fellas?
I'm out.
Listen to us more. And the grind. Listen to the grind. That's what Ryan's show is. And Aaron is Aaron a regular host, or is Aaron just there, every so often? I actually never knew that.
No, Aaron's part of the crew, man. I mean, we're like 4.
Man, I must have earned it with my second appearance tonight.
Yeah, I mean, second appearance. Haven't you been on since the beginning? I feel like
3 now. So, so 60%. All right, I'll take it.
To answer your question, when I'm thinking about the show and I put the format out 20 minutes before air, I just assume Aaron's going to be there.
Yeah.
So yes.
Just a given.
But yeah, no, the grind is pretty cool, man. We're doing some good stuff, and we're gonna have to pick some of these guys out of the crowd and bring them on as well.
Yeah,
spikes things up a bit.
All right.
Hey, my last thought for the night is I just want to give a shout out to one of our listeners and commenters tonight, Brock. His sevens team, which is a age 10 and 12 age team, is going to their national championships. So best of luck, Brock. And thank you so much for tuning in and, for getting in on the rugby early in life. So keep it up. Maybe there's some MLR in your future, maybe even National Sevens team. Who knows? So
probably the coach.
So
do you say 10-year-old listens to us?
I have no idea.
He's probably the coach, man.
No, he said he plays fullback.
That doesn't change his age.
On his sevens team.
Change his age, man. Oh, man.
Okay. I'll watch my language a bit more in the future.
That's what I was thinking too, man. I'm thinking here, I'm like, you said that, and I'm like, oh my God, did I say anything? Oh, I said something. Hopefully it wasn't bad.
I'm okay.
I'm muted.
Okay, guys. So guys, let's clap for the kids, shall we? For them go to championship.
Good luck, guys.
There we go. Best of luck to the kids. Okay, guys. So let me jump in because if not, we're going to be another hour here for you, everyone else talking. So, guys, first of all, thank you very much for joining us on another episode of Earful of Dirt. Keep in mind, this was once again episode. Oh no, we didn't mention it. This is episode 23. By the way. So, of course, guys, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is Earful of Dirt Podcast. Make sure to follow us and subscribe to the page, to the channel, if you have not done so. Of course, make sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And make sure to check out our website, earfulofdirt.com. We're writing every week about something MLR related. Make sure to, of course, follow Josh's writings, which are very insightful. Also, on iTunes, make sure to add us to your feed. And not only iTunes, but also, if you don't have access to it, Acast, Google Play, Stitcher, Play, and FM, and leave us a review on whichever platform you can. Again, guys, we want those reviews back. We haven't gotten one in a while. So let's do this quickly. Also, guys, make sure to call us and leave us a voicemail on our following number, which is 1-720-600-2679. And once again, that's 1-720-600-2679. Keep in mind the broadcast, almost forgot to mention, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time. So with that said, everyone, once again, thank you for listening. I'm Victor. Once again, that was Aaron, that was Zen, that was Corey, that was Josh, and of course, our guest, Mr. Ryan Ginty from Next Level Games, Next Level Rugby, Next Level Games, sorry. That was a video game developer. In any case, we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.